approach here is to listen deeply.
We're going to have a deep breath.
There's no winner in this unless everyone wins.
Breathing deep into our heart.
Incubating the seeds of a new culture.
Us awakening to our dreams, the manifestations of creations for a healthy earth, a thriving
It's much easier to just unconditionally love
We're in
everybody.
an awakening process.
Evolving, and that really the act is for us to be nature, to act as nature, and that's the
breathing
super
deep into our heart and acknowledging the gift that we are.
All right, I hope we're breathing deep into our hearts and acknowledging the gift that we are. Steve and I just had a little laugh behind the scenes here, but I'm going to do a welcome, awakened dream earth, awakened dream life, awakened dream synergy. We're now broadcasting. I'm in Tulum, Mexico, and Steve is in Northern California. And this is awakened dream earth, awakened dream life, awakened dream synergy. How do we come alive to our dreams in the real manifest world right now, on earth, as human beings creating life? We're a group of people who have come together during the pandemic on the Zoom calls. We're a conscious collective who've discovered each other and who are here to make what we believe is a better world, where we nurture our hearts, our bodies, our souls, nurture the actual values and purposes of life and life creation, and nurture technologies and systems and people who really are here to come alive and to help people come alive in a way that serves us. So today we have Steve Weisberg, a dear friend of mine for many years. We used to geek out on what it is we could create in technology, having worked in technology and having been information architects and user experience designers and managers. And so Steve and I would think, what can we do in this life creation? And Steve has a lot of experience with actually following what's happening in politics and national and international lines. And so he's been really thinking about, like, what is the future of purpose rather than the future of work. Excuse me, I am in Mexico. We've got dogs barking, turkeys, and cars and horns, and Steve is hoping for some chicken, but they only come out in the morning, in the middle of the night here. So our pivot point for our conscious collective is, what do we have a great chance of catalyzing on Earth through humanity right now? What are our most beautiful dreams in this global experience of health, wealth, awe, wonder, and thriving life? And how do we connect with that, with ourselves, with each other, and create this world that we came here to live? We really believe that there is a great point of shift happening right now, and that we can pivot into a new reality by choosing at every moment having a footprint and an impact on Earth that is healthy for ourselves and for life in general. If it's healthy for us, then it's healthy for you. If we're truly one and truly interwoven on this sphere of Earth, then what I do affects you, what you do affects me, we affect each other. So what is the future of purpose, Steve Weisberg, and what have you been thinking about in these realms? And welcome, Steve. Please introduce yourself a little bit more if you'd like to say something, and we'll get into the conversation here.
Okay. Well, I'm Steve. I'm often in the, been a long time involved in not just technology, but technology in terms of collaboration and technology and how communication and these technologies affect culture and affect our ability to interact and function. And so I've been very involved over several decades with tool sets that enhance these capabilities. And so in my work, I've done certain experiments and certain observations from actually functioning things such as large enterprise and other, and as well as commercial to public. implementations of these things, and using a lot of these personalization tools and things like this. And so as we're now really experiencing these tools and experiencing these platforms, we're also seeing the challenges that are really confronting us, where we're able to communicate at these levels, and it's showing up a lot of our dysfunction and our policy dysfunction, our interpersonal dysfunction, and so with looking at a lot of this, like, what is the thing we should be working on, and or one of the things, there's so many, but what are the things we should be working on is in terms of, really I see reoccurring is people's loss of sense of their purpose and how they can fulfill that purpose. And so I've been looking at future of work, because as being part of creating automation, automating at an intellectual or knowledge worker level, I see we are following very old ideas about how does people change to fit the new environment, and this new environment is of how do we functionally become, before it was going from physical or you know manufacturing or so forth work to knowledge worker. But the treadmill of automation is pushing that even further, and so the jumps of how do we go from still being more working in the physical area over into the knowledge, but even beyond, how do we use these tools for our values, the have value. And it's very problematic area, and I see the ideas are very old. It's sort of the old idea of retrain, and I think we're not in a retrain moment. We're passing through that.
So, since you just brought up a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas that are obviously going through your mind and are something that our culture and our people speak about in our private meetings, and you've got a lot of this news. So I would love to talk about these tools, because you're talking about the tools that, like, here we're using StreamYard, and then we've got YouTube, we've got different kinds of media, and then we've also got different kinds of automation. So I'm wondering if you could speak about the different tools in regards to digital sharing of information, and then also what you mean by automation. What is happening in the automation world right now, and where do you see it going, and how do you see that we could shift the work to purposeful creation? I know that's a big mouthful, but can you just start with the tools and in digital and automation?
Yeah, I mean, the tools have progressed quite a bit, but more I should say is the adaptation of the tools. I mean, we're doing a video conferencing. I've been doing video conferencing for 30 years now. So video conferencing has been around. It's now in literally the last few years have finally really been able to work at volume, and well at volume. And so it's now hit that liptus point of being commonplace, and it took 30 years to get here. So didn't just happen overnight. So this is one of the tools we face-to-face interact. The other, so before the tools were very converting paper to online, we now have 3D printing, converting, where you have to go through all these prototype manufacturing steps to just design it in a computer and print. There's automation tools happening at an intellectual level. We keep talking about AI. I usually like to use the word, instead of saying artificial intelligence, because maybe all intelligence is not artificial, but it's automating intelligence. So it's taking our thinking methods and ways and automating that into a dynamic script. So that's another tool that's really hitting us now. So I think we're going into that venture where it was our tools were really tackling our physical world problems, making workplaces safer, increasing production, and that way we were able to take our human skills and move it over into a more intellectual areas. But as we were talking about the transition from the physical to the knowledge, there was still lots of room for where we could go and be dynamic and functional and have our place. As we automate the intellectual tools, such as we talk about bots and so forth, your personal bots, which but we have a lot of those tools that interact, in automating, what we think. We're able to embed our ways of thinking into these automations, and that's the other tool. The other tools that is affecting us a lot is our ability, our interactions. We're now we're running into a big clash of the model of it's been followed with capitalization, which is maximization. So our model is all about forever grow. So this advertising, marketing, so forth is now echoing into our personal interactions.
So
And
before we
these
go,
tools are amplifying that, and it's taking the place of our human interaction. So I think we think it's part of our human activity because it is human interacting, but the algorithm is stepping into our culture, and that's
So
a
would
tool
you
that's
say,
impacting us.
would you say, there's been all kinds of tools that have happened. Would you say that they've been purposeful in helping evolve humanity get to a better place of life and living in general? And do you see that we could be doing that further now, getting into a better space with the tools that we're creating? Or do you think that, how do we do that?
Well, I think we do have very big cultural transition challenges. I mean, so when looking at a culture change using the tools, we're looking at people still have a very hierarchical way of relating, and one of these tools really able to make lateral bridges, but that causes a lot of insecurity to the hierarchy, and so the hierarchy still has a platform and still imposes its challenges into the
Would you explain lateral bridges?
direct.
Would you explain lateral bridges, what you mean by lateral bridges?
Well, I mean, where before, to consolidate an effort or an idea, we had to go up, to up a chain to basically to have an authority, and that authority would consolidate the methods and the schemes and so forth, and redistribute. And so there was a up and down the hierarchy way of interacting and communicating, and that left kind of everyone on their own islands of information or ways. But that now we're able to interact directly, so we are able to have much more functional direct relationships with what we want to do. So we don't need to interact through a hierarchy anymore. We can actually dynamically assemble people and teams. We can dynamically interact with those teams, and we can change that dynamic instantly. So when you switch a product, like now, you can entertain 3 different projects, and you can be the same specialist within all those 3 different projects, but that your ability to just dynamically change teams, without any other regulating or mitigating entity in there is actually a very new thing at this level. And like we're half a world apart, it doesn't matter. It's more, the problem is more our sleep cycle than anything else.
our rhythm and rhyme. So this is a new dynamic of how we interact directly with each other and how we may create creations and how we may create more automation. So there's a lot of automation happening, a lot of people talking about, people are going to be kicked out from doing certain laborious kind of things because of robotics and things like that. What do you think of that kind of automation?
Well, that's the automation we've been really experiencing. That was really starting to creep in the 80s, and it started really taking much more of a direct form. Where still a lot of hands-on is involved. Now that we're in the 2020s, the robotic side, the labor side is so much is and anything consistent, predictable is automated. And I think the Amazon warehouse is an excellent example on that. But I think also if you look at the Amazon warehouse, where a lot of the movement and interactions, they're using humans like robots because their plan is to replace them with robots, with automation. So we're in this really ugly transition point of that. The centralization that's happened with Amazon's a great pullout from this, because the centralization, they've taken, millions of independent shops, and they've consolidated it into one website and consolidated them into warehouses where you don't walk into a store and interact with employees. And the people are are in the background for that transition. As they automate them out, the number of people who do that for work reduces. And so that's a displacement, a huge displacement. You could say, well, Amazon's a great efficiency. You could say it from a global warming perspective. That efficiency keeps a lot of cars off the road, a lot of, it consolidates that movement, so that creates less carbon. But that centralization displaces humans in what we do, and even the humans that are in that automation, because they're being run right by robots. Because at an IT level, they're saying, I need to write these scripts, so I need humans to behave like robots so that we know what we need the robots to do. So in that word, but
That's interesting.
so
I mean,
that's the displacement. And so the question is, this displacement continuing, and it's moving on, and it's moving deeper. Lawyers and doctors and all the things you thought were untouchable are now, displacement is happening there. Already software can replace a paralegal.
So yeah, speak a little bit more about displacement. So we're talking about displacement, people feeling displaced. Before we started this conversation, we were talking about how people feel displaced, and they're feeling odd, at odds with the world, at odds with community, at odds with what's happening. And it's almost like there's more of a hierarchy, because these people are creating these amazing automated systems like Amazon. I use Amazon, you use Amazon, it helps me, it helps you, but it's displacing people, and people are feeling lost as to where they belong, how they belong, and they're feeling scared, I think, a lot of times. And they're not knowing what's happening. So can you speak a little bit about what you're seeing with displacement, and then how the future of purpose ties into that and the future of work?
Okay, yeah. I think right now one of the most important specialties we probably should be investing in right now is sociologists. When I talk to people about automation, but more so people who are in the affected areas, but not in the creation area of automation, they really don't get how automation is affecting them. It's still very peripheral in a lot of people's minds, and so that's where you're using the word feeling. I think people are reacting and pointing fingers of what is affecting their lives, and pointing them all over the place, and you know and we're not getting focused on this transition, where so we're responding from our feelings, and that's coming out in many different ways. So I, I I think we need to move out of that feeling. We need to really culturally understand what all this automation is going to do for us. And this is coming up. People are talking about this. They're talking about UBI, universal basic income, as a way of solving a part of this displacement problem. We have this model of interaction using money, and well, if you're going to buy food and you're going to have a shelter, you're going to have clothes, you're going to have to still interact with this model. So therefore, how do we get if we have no work for these people because we've automated them out of a job, then what do we do about that? And so UBI is one of the things, but UBI is not really addressing our purpose need. And I think that's where we're really in a conflict is,
well, hey, let's party and just drink
our purpose
and waste
why
the
we
human
exist.
resources.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I was just laughing because a lot of people, yeah, exactly, like a lot of people if they have the universal basic income, they probably wouldn't feel like that they had to do anything but party, have sex, make babies, and use the earth's resources, right? So I didn't mean to interject too much, but I just want to put a little spice in there. And so go on with what you're talking about with the future of purpose, and how, like, what if you have a universal basic income because you're automated out of creativity, yet the automation is still fueling an economy and a creation and movement on earth? What will we do with that capacity? What could we do? What would happen? What do you see is necessary?
Right. That's a huge conflict point, culturally. If we go back to the farming culture, you worked and the farm worked. And so you were a participant in the farm, and that gave you food and whatnot. The thing is that we're now really getting it in a layer where, if we do UBI, is this just like, well, I'll just eat, drink, and party? Is a lot of the accusation of people who are against this. The truth is UBI, just as a stipend to life, is not probably going to work. I think we're going to need different models. I mean, I think the UBI is a good discussion. We need a lot of experimentation there, in terms of trying different things. Some communities have tried stipends to give regular funding to people who are in these high need, these stressed situations, and that has actually reduced effects of crime. So that is a note. But I mean, UBI, the U being universal, what does that mean? So I think there's probably models like grants where we can have more art grants where you can do this. And again, one of the things you pointed out is the impact to Earth. I mean, we need to be cognizant when we think about these models that more humans doing things is not necessarily good for the Earth. I mean, the people that eat, drink, and party may actually be better for Earth than the people who do other things that pull upon the resources of Earth. So how do we have purpose, and how do we also this? And one of the things I noticed from the communities you're in, I mean, people really they want to make positive outcomes, and they want to be conscious of the environment we live in and the earth and so forth. And they're turning to veganism. They're looking at how they can have less impact. They're looking at how the impact they do have is sustainable. So I think there is a natural human desire to solve problems and to see the bigger problem. But I think that's why I say probably UBI in the form of grants may make more sense, where you have a group of people, they design criteria of grants. And they look at the balance of, well, we need certain art grants for expression and to get the emotional processes developed. We don't invest in our emotional development. and that could be a fantastic grant area. And then there's the grant areas sustainability, and so all you have to, so this propels people. So imagine you can have the ideas you have, you come forward with the values, and then you just saying, I have these ideas on how I can address these values, and I get paid to do it. Now a grant says you can just completely fail your metrics. I mean, you could just take that money and drink, party, and so forth. But typically, I think people, when they actually engage like that, they will want to make good on their grants, and they'll want to do something. And so I think that would be a great way. You would have funding to eat, drink, and all the things, have shelter and healthcare, and we don't escape the economic communication model that we're in now, which isn't bad. I mean, it might actually change it in the sense it'll be more purpose-based versus exponential growth-based. So I think grants may be a great form of UBI to look at.
So let's dive into that purpose-based grants, and what is the future of purpose, and how can that shift or replace work, or how are you seeing this? Because you were talking about the future of work and then the future of purpose. Can you tie that in a little bit more? Like we're hitting the edge of this wonder. And by the way, our Christmas party is going to start soon, so
okay, I'll try to wrap it up.
No need to wrap it up. Just let's just keep on going until we've got what we'd love to say. We have a purpose here after all, so let's have this purpose come through.
Well, one of the biggest struggles I see coming on is that we're having a challenge dealing with becoming a global organism. We're not just these radical individuals, sitting in the middle of the woods, do whatever the fuck we want. We are fully interacting all the time. And we have systems that have been put in place that bridge those interactions, mitigate those interactions, and so forth. So this is a very challenging time for humans as we enter into these systems, and it's uncomfortable, and not always fair, and so forth. I think we have a lot of cultural challenges to take on. We have a lot of system challenges to take on. Policy challenges. I think there's layers here in purpose that it'd be really great to see the bird's eye of the saying, how do we get a good distribution of all the things that need to happen? I think people will more naturally try to solve the problems that are not getting the attention they should. So yeah, I think we're going to need to really look at a purpose-based culture, a purpose-based ecosystem, economics, so forth. How do we switch to that to be purpose-based? And I think one of the core things that we're in the middle of is we're dealing with these algorithms. But I point to the algorithm that is probably causing us the most problems, even though it's giving us the most progress, is the corporation. And the corporation is an entity, and we've developed artificial entities that are full-on entities within our laws. So as we're inviting these entities in, we're not thinking about the value system of these entities. We may rail against them when they are hideous about their values, but we're not really designing their algorithm to reflect what values we need going forward. So if we're to take a nonprofit, the nonprofit is one of those things, like where it's mission based. So when you succeed your mission, the entity disappears. It as an off switch. It means, and if you don't like its mission, you communicate against its mission. So the algorithm includes its values. And so I think we need to move more towards that, and we need to also protect that too, because it's also getting intrusion from the corporate entities. So they're trying, like for instance, the .org domain that tried to get commercialized. That fortunately got fended off. But these are little virtual territories that are getting impeded into, and we need to be mindful of the virtual territories, not just the physical territories.
Okay, so the future of purpose being creating not value purpose people, grants, universal basic income, but also corporations, so and other business entities. So what do you think of cryptocurrency, NFTs, decentralized autonomous organizations, and how could these help purpose-built new systems, to come emerging through the fabric of the current systems that are globally interwoven?
Well, I mean, they're trying to with a lot of these virtual things. I mean, this is again, I've been playing around this field of distributed computing for 30 years, and include encryption and all these things. We tried to create the repeat of physical structures in the virtual world. So NFTs have the certificate. You can duct tape a banana to the wall, take a picture of it, make an NFT of it. The banana and the wall don't matter anymore. It's the certificate. So art is irrelevant. The certificate is more important. I think we have a lot of transition challenges. The cryptocurrency world is a bit of I don't know. It's like they used to say porn makes the medium. So where Laserdisc failed because they kept porn out of that medium, and VHS succeeded. Maybe greed is what needs to take place, but the mediums we're virtualizing these platforms and distributing ownership better. The opportunities are really good. I mean, but I really would hope people start really rethinking the value system behind these mediums. That we're so cryptocurrency allows us to rethink the model of communication around money. I mean, this is an amazing, and what's beautiful about it is that anyone can create their token system. And so hopefully this is a creative explosion, and through this creative explosion we find something that works better. But currently the taking one greed model and moving it to another greed platform doesn't sound like much of an improvement to me. But hopefully with anyone can make money. I mean, in terms of design, have a coin, allows us to creatively think about what is our economic communication model of the future. And I wouldn't dare to say I have any answer there, but I hope to see the creative expressions that does reveal that is better than what we're doing now with our current currency model. Because I mean, for example, everyone's gone digital with their money. They use credit cards and debit cards and so forth. But the irony is like I always crack up with the cash back model. We're going to give you cash back. Well, you took it in the first place, so you skimmed it. So now you're giving me a percentage of what you skimmed from what I gave. It's just funny. So yeah, hopefully we end up coming up with a better currency and all these models. So right now, I'm a little bit saddened that I see we're doing the transition, but we're taking everything that was not really great about human behavior and we're transferring it to an online platform. And I'm hoping we can creatively come up with something better.
Well, I mean, what's so great about smart contracts is it's an actual agreement. So you can write down what the rules of the agreement are, and that you're agreeing to that. And that's what you can do with NFTs, and that's where the dynamicism of all of this happens. And that's what we've been talking about in our group, Awaken Dream Synergy and Earth, is how we can create these agreements that are for purposeful art, purposeful podcasts, purposeful development, purposeful lands and retreats and conscious apps that help people awaken to the dream of their life inside. So what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, the smart contract is, not new. I mean, you take a mortgage out on a house and it's tied to an interest rate variability. So in a simplistic way, the online smart contract, and we did this previously too, where we actually are tying these things that we should be dynamically reacting to and not have to rewrite the contract, but have it automatically recalibrate to that, all staying within the agreement, all the parties being in agreement. So this is an automation. This is just an automation of the old contract that required a lot of lawyers every time you needed a change. So we kind of
but we get back to peer to peer here.
We still for us, if we're getting more into the weeds on it, we need to think more of what are we tying metrics to, what are the boundaries of those metrics, and how to, and how do we organize around it when you're creating that contract. And people like templates, so it does, so if something's good, people will copy it. So hopefully that helps. But and it's easier to copy a digital version than a paper version. But yeah.
This brings us hello, here we go, we've got the party happening, but this brings us back to peer-to-peer relations, like you were talking about in the earlier part of how we can work directly with people and it's less hierarchical, so we can be in agreement with something that we agree with, rather than when you made a contract with a mortgage broker or a bank, it was the bank that was giving out the note. Now we can give notes from person to person, and each person can even create their own note with NFTs on some level. That's the art kind of experience.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to exclude an entity like a bank, but it definitely gives the opportunity to bring in different ways of forming support agreement. We got a lot of work to do around mediation. How does mediation work? There's a lot of gray area happening there, and I see a lot of people thrashing around over the whole mediation aspect. But it does, as it is the peer-to-peer, the going lateral, going direct. It, it is removing specialists out of the picture. So we are automating specialists out. So we are saying, well, we need less legal people, or we need less of a institution to be the holder. And there'll probably be situations we need someone at an institutional level where their processes and so forth are all very predictable and tied down. But the peer-to-peer becomes more open and more opportunity. So hopefully that is really, people are able to make more macro agreements that are not just the IOU on the piece of paper, but actually have more structure to it, and we can just do it ourselves. That's fantastic. That is removing us out of needing mediation, and I think if we can self-mediate the a lot better. I mean, it doesn't eliminate the need for mediation, but it definitely can offload quite a bit, so that's another aspect of automation. But again, it's up to how people who are approaching this really want to do this, and also being able to organize in a more dynamic way is actually another outcome that's coming into it. And that's a huge, the more, I think it is valuable that we structure our interactions so that the terms and agreements of what we're doing are on the table and clear. Helps us from staying out of situations that could turn violent, let's say. That's a huge positive if we can push that down to a more of a individual level.
So how does that tie into the future of purpose then? If we could, on an individual level, create our own contracts, create our own agreements, automate all of that, and just become more intelligent about what we're creating on Earth. Don't you think that if we're more purposeful people, we'll be creating it as like a tensegrity of multiple nodes of energy and light and heart and soul, a reality that we love?
As far as purpose goes, it has little to do with it. It's more of structures that when we go on to an endeavor, we have these apps, these tools that we can draw on to better enable us to have a positive outcome on our purpose or our intent. It doesn't really affect our values at all. They're just applications. Whatever you do with the application, if I want to be evil with it, I can be evil with it. That's, and hopefully that kind of shows up in people going, I don't want to play with you. So yeah, these are tools. These are new tools. They're refactoring of old tools, and they're allowing more autonomy. And so again, it's part of that automation. And I think we're in a learning curve, and we're going to see how that sorts out. And there's going to be resistance, and we'll see. But I think people get into the novelty of things without really fully understanding it, and I think that causes negative outcomes for people that try to use these applications to deliver their purpose.
How can people best deliver their purpose?
Oh, I mean, it's really, I mean, I think the juncture is more is that, it takes time to do your purpose. So to you people have spent time reading and talking, and they as a human have, are incorporating what makes life better. And I think the personal journey of human development will improve our purpose. So I think developing as better humans is probably the more key, and that doesn't take any technology whatsoever. We can do without the technology. We just need the healthy people around us. So I think these tools then later on, after you really get onto your mission, and hopefully you write that mission out clearly, can be great at enabling you. Then the issue again is our cultural economic model does not facilitate this very well without you going into the max fully. I just need to maximize my profit model. So you're kind of it feels a little bit of an all or nothing. Either I'm on my mission and it's profitable, but if it's not profitable, I can't function. And that's where I think UBI and really thinking of experiments there that can enable people to move forward with a purpose and have sustenance to live on this is a big deal. I mean, that's the healthy outlet to this, to the challenge of what's going to keep people from just, partying and drinking and so forth. This is it. It's got to be a purpose outlet. And I think one of the things we need to both culturally and economically look at is how do we open that door? And that door is currently not really open.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, talking about purpose and universal basic income being purpose. I mean, my own experience of working on my purpose projects and, not being able to complete them because I didn't have housing or food or proper instruments to even get out there. So now it's been a few years of working on it, and my friend just gave me a camera. So my camera works. I have a phone, but it's been quite a challenge. So I've gone through this whole experience of, okay, I would love a universal basic income or sponsors and all this kind of stuff. So how do we dream this? How do we create this? And I've put effort forward to how do we create this kind of decentralized autonomous organization that's based on purpose? Where is the purpose? In the meantime, where do I live? How do I eat? How do I create this? And after my own personal experience, not being willing to just pick up again and get a job again and work on the side for this vision I've had for so many years that I've been working on. So I totally understand that. And so anyone who wants to send some sponsorship, benefactors, of course, paypal.me/vibescience, which is my old company because it's about the vibration and the science of vibration, and our thoughts, our feelings. And so Steve, I'm gonna close this pretty soon because we've got birds and people. It's Christmas Eve and a lot of joy, and people are eating and beginning to drink here in this beautiful land in Tulum, downtown Tulum area. So Steve, I'm wondering what is your dream? What is a dream that you would like to awaken to and that you can imagine Earth awaken to? So that's two questions, and I'd love you to answer both of them.
Yeah, you've been on me for some time about answering both of them. So you decided you're going to put me on the spot now. I really enjoy my curiosity, and I don't necessarily have to have my curiosity have a purpose. I just find things that are interesting or odd and want to know more. So that's a weird purpose, and so I just hope I always have interesting and odd things to be curious about. It's an interesting write-up. I do want to see. I think my purpose really is to look at these tools and look at tools and saying, can I build a toolkit that enables people to find healthier ways of being within their life, and that's interacting with some of these future structures we're going into.
Sorry if my mic was on over that. I'm trying to mute when you're just talking. But so what can you imagine being created for that?
I think we're getting overconfident about our abilities, and so I think there is a work to be done, or to make tools that help navigate people into the discipline and the deeper art of any of these specialties. I think we're falsely believing we can know and do all these things because we're delivered it so on demand. We're like the HF where they just download. We're getting into that way of thinking. We're getting a false ego of that we actually know how to do that. Are a subject matter expert. And so I think getting people the tools to understand that discipline when they enter into it, at least have the appreciation of what it means to be fully in and capable within that discipline. So I think just that level setting would be valuable.
The discipline of knowing thyself and thy purpose and what thy creation really means.
I mean, if you never built a bridge that carries cars, and you're saying I want to build a bridge that carries cars, and you downloaded all the YouTubes and you can see all the different techniques that you never built a bridge. You never did the math to build the bridge. You never, the confidence, the false confidence that you're just going to go and build a bridge without actually having the background discipline of everything it takes, plus the relationships with other people and other people's disciplines that make that happen, is a false, would be a false, perception. So saying I know how to build a bridge. I saw the YouTube how to build a bridge. I mean, so I think having the better, it's really fantastic. We can get knowledge so fast, and it helps us out tremendously, and it gives us more capability. Absolutely. And the perception that you're a subject matter expert is just is not, I think, really put the person in the. For people who are subject matter experts, it doesn't allow us to listen to them as well. And I think that or even know how to listen to them. I mean, so that can also be it. So
yes, I've noticed quite a movement.
That awareness would really be helpful at this time.
Right. In yours and my time, we spend 20 years getting to know the subject, experiencing it, trying every aspect of it, and then activating it. And that's what I've been doing. And now there's all these subject experts who are just zooming on by, but at least they're offering and sharing their belief. I believe that there's a way to really come through by believing you can, studying and doing it. So a lot of people are learning on the job right now in the knowledge workspace. And like, for instance, I've had, young yoga teachers tell me that I have to do something a certain way. And I'm like, no, my body can't do that. And they just didn't understand that. And I had no understanding how they could not know that some people's bodies don't work in certain ways. So that was actually detrimental to me when I was doing yoga teacher training and things like that, or my early days of yoga, is people just weren't realizing that not everyone's body is the same and can do the same thing. So I actually have yoga injuries because of this, and I didn't finish my yoga teacher training because of this, because I felt forced to do that what my body wasn't capable of, because I actually have some physical traumas that wouldn't allow me to do that. So I see that happening in a lot of ways, and a lot of these younger influencers are suggesting that certain things be happening without actually having the experience. And as someone who's been like on the search and traveling the world and stuff like that, I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And so I see a little bit of this dilemma, but I also see how people are just putting forth their effort. They're wanting to get the best out there. So how can we be more well-rounded in the purpose and creation, and be smart and caring and empathetic about it, empathic and compassionate.
Yeah, I think I don't really have too much to respond to your example, except that no matter what your experience or your skill level is, listening is an ongoing developmental art. And it's better when somebody who really knows what they're doing also knows how to listen. I think we've all gone into either a mechanic or a doctor visit and so forth, and they may know a lot, but they're not listening, and they're seeing a problem, but it's not the problem I'm talking about. And so you're trying to say, no, 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 this is my problem, not that. And they're just not listening, and you should just know that, okay, they may know what they're doing, but they're not really working with me. And I think that's a self skill, that saying, okay, this person's not working with me, and instead of getting combative about it, just sort of, well, I just need to find someone who listens. So I think that generally we have a listening challenge, and muting challenge. Sometimes people
I'm still getting to learn.
Just can't.
I'm still learning how this works. It seems like whatever the last thing I was on, I can space bar back and forth with it, but I'm still learning how it works. So, but yeah, in regards to listening and oh my gosh, no, I forgot what I was going to say. Wow, I was so there. I had something amazing to say.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
You start
go
getting
back to
busy with
speaking.
with all the tools, and they're not doing what you want them to do, and then you forget your purpose.
They're not listening. Oops, I'm pressing the wrong button. What?
I think there's a theme in there, that you get so busy working with the tools and manipulating the tools, then you forget your purpose. What were you going to say?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Actually, that's what made me take a little bit longer, because I had that epiphany and was starting to write. I'm starting to write like more articles right now, and I was writing an article exactly about that. The distractions of not getting to the point while I was making you wait, but you also had to drink your coffee and things like that. So we were talking about listening skills. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say listening to yourself. That gets into personal self-sovereignty. Who's the authority over you? How do you coach yourself versus being coached by others? Where do you who's the right authority? Like, is it the doctor or is it me? Like I've been learning about cancer. I have a few people that I'm coaching in their cancer, and one person just had 80% of their cancer's cells go away, and so they're healing themselves. And what I'm learning in this book, Radical Remission, is that people that are are having radical remission rather than spontaneous, because it actually takes a lot of work to have cancer go away a lot of times, is they're doing like 9 points. They're doing all 9 points. They're not just doing one, they're just not doing two, but one of the main points is listening to yourself, is intuition. So that's one of the things, is more than anyone what you need. So listening to yourself, that's where I've been working on the radical purpose of what we can awaken to on earth as individual lives, is awakening to that purpose. So I would love to have some times where I bring on guests where we talk about self-sovereignty. I actually invited a guest who's worked on self-sovereignty in the political world, and as a nation you can become sovereign in some ways, because we are a part of this corporation of whatever nation we're in, especially if we're American. And so a lot of the Native American people have been like, no, we actually have our own nation and we're sovereign from you and we have our own rules. So that's also, we can look at that in the macro and the micro of the individual person out to, small cultures and relations out to the nation we're in, out to the world we're in. And we're working on we're going through shift and change, and this is where we're headed, is this decentralized peer-to-peer. What is real? Do I trust you? Who are the 5 people around me, and how do they influence me into creating the world that I love to create? And what am I listening to? Is that my authority? Is that my culture? Or am I creating the culture, or am I living a culture that existed in the past that no longer serves us? So this is what we're looking at, the culture of purpose versus the culture of work. And how does this purpose happen during a time of automation where we've had the industrial revolution, and now we're having the purpose or the energy revolution, the conscious revolution, and new evolution of humanity, and we are creating it through the technologies that we're building, and we're all in this together. So do you have anything more to say about all of this, Steve? Please rant on.
There's so much there. You put a lot out there. There's so many areas that you're just putting out there. So I don't think I can address that much. I mean, we like I say, as we're becoming a collective organism, as the networks are becoming more established and we're depending more on the networks, we are challenged on knowing, is this really me, or is this part of the group? And then what is the group? And groups now where you're talking native, where the group was much more, on this piece of land with this group of people and this environment, very, very self-contained. We don't live in that world anymore. We will live in a world of much broader interactions and much more broader dependencies. I mean, if you look in your home, the products that show up on your table and everything come from all over the world. So, I mean, we're not that easy to just say, I'm this. And I think a lot of people are having that challenge, that they're, who am I? What am I? When I say things, when I think things, is this me or is this group think? And so I think there is a lot of learning about yourself and, being, really centered within your own psychological self. That's why I see sociology being so important, but also therapies of people should see a therapist just to help them learn more about themselves. So it is important when you go out in the world that you understand that the group or groups you're interacting with is this really, am I harming myself when I'm interacting with it? And so I think in general, we have a lot of negotiation skills we need to pick up on, because we're going to be more and more, as we are now, negotiating our place among all this collaborative group, entity to person relationships. So I think our relationship model is just so complex right now, and it's stressing people out, and it's stressing me out. So
well, a lot of people are afraid of being replaced, from displacement to replacement to not mattering. So that's where we can instill purpose in all of culture. What is the purpose of creation, and is it for thriving? Is it just for a small group? Is it for many? So thank you, Steve, for being on Awake and Dream Earth, and speaking some of your thoughts and sharing your dreams and your thoughts and your ideas. And I really love having this actual conversation being recorded, because we've been talking for so many years and typing away and then losing, or just having the conversation. So I'm grateful to have you here. And this is Awake and Dream Earth, and I'll be having people on this show, or this podcast, pretty regularly. And we span from the future of purpose to values to the technology of self, which is my favorite subject matter, which is this technology. How are we using it? And that's a sociological space. So thank you, Steve. I think I'm going to go join the Christmas Eve festivities on this community that I'm living on in Tulum, Mexico. And So I'm Denise Eve Love, D Love, and I'm from Awakened Dream. And you're welcome to comment, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. And we're going to bring on more friends. We've been having these Zoom calls for a year and a half, and we're just going public with them now. And we're putting the Zoom call in a private community, and people will be able to join that community. And we're joining a lot of different communities together to see how we can really inspire people to come alive to their personal selves and also their creations and their purpose. So this is really wonderful to speak about this, Steve, with you, someone who looks at the economics and the politics and really knows what's going on, is really tapped into what people are saying and what's happening on many levels. So having grown up in Washington, D.C. with a father who works with protocols, you do understand protocols, and having worked with technologies and creating new technologies. And so I still want to see your podcast come alive and your many different wonderful ideas. So I hope that this inspires you to bring that alive. And I'm going to bring more community members because so many good voices here. And thank you, Steve, for being here.
Well, thank you.
So
enjoy your Christmas Eve.
Yeah, in the tropics. Woo, look at the plants. They're so beautiful.
Yeah, you can get a little flour and sprinkle it and pretend it's snow, I guess. And, make a tortilla as you're doing it,
Right, totally. Absolutely. Okay, anything else that you want to close with, Steve?
No, I think that's great. And all to people who can understand their purpose and create one that is healthy for themselves and their friends, family, and greater community.
Yeah, and what is the purpose of holidays? What is the purpose of what we're doing?
It either. Enjoy it. It's important to enjoy it.
Oh, whoops. Okay. Well, good thing I'm in a community of people who enjoy it. So okay. Wonderful. I'm going to actually end the broadcast right under 60. So Awaken Dream Earth, lots of love, and aloha.